during COVID, the time when this country was crazy and everybody was crazy, I was crazy. I didn't even want to go outside because it was so much COVID, okay? I didn't even want my kids to come around because it was COVID, okay? So here I am, and I'm calling them up, and I'm saying, I have a lump in my breast, and I know it's breast cancer. I would not have made it, or I don't think I would have made it as well if I didn't have you, if I didn't have my community, if I didn't have people. Everybody does something to help. And we have to learn to understand that whatever someone contributes, we need to see the beauty in it. The gap in the world is that we tell women 1 in 8 women will have breast cancer, but nobody tells you what to do when you're that 1 in 8. Nobody talks to you about that mental health. Nobody tells you that you need to do a lot of things.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Growth Motivator Live. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. I am so excited today about my guest speaker, Dr. Debra Boyd-Seale. She is one of my closest friends that I met in 1998 when we were both attending Governor State University. And I'll tell you a funny story. So Governor State University, we both were there earning our master's in healthcare administration degree. And I was like, who is this lady that just keeps talking? So one day we was in the parking lot after class talking about how we were going to navigate life, the program. At the time, I think the program was having some challenges. And so Nurse Debra, she took charge and was like, not on my watch. This program is going to do what it needs to do to remain intact. And so ever since then, I knew that she was a fighter. How you doing?
I am doing great. First, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, because you're right. I talk a lot and I have a lot to say. So I'm going to say it during this time too. Those times back in Governor State were some challenging times, but the point that you made that I said I was going to make it do what it needed to do, it was because I made a conscious decision to go to Governor State. There was something I wanted, and Governor State was not going to take that from me. Not at all. So I'm glad that we had that, because you know what? It let you and I get close together and let you and I work. And we found out we had some other things in common. I work with your aunt, who you're named after. So we just kind of start vibing and things just kind of start working. But I really want to thank you for allowing me to come here and have this chit chat. So let's jump in.
All right. So let's talk about a time in your life where you faced some significant challenges.
I've had a lot of challenges in my life. Sometimes it's really difficult to say what challenge is more important than the other. But I find in life a lot of times there is no, this is more important than that. Sometimes this is what's in front of you. You got to deal with it. So if it's in front of me at the time, it's a significant challenge. As you know, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2020. That was a significant challenge, a real big challenge. I'm taking a shower. Life is good. I'm going about my business. I feel a lump. And I'm like, oh no, I have breast cancer. Now, you called me Nurse Debra, so let me just say that I am a registered nurse. Have been one for many, many, many years. More than that little Stefan over there been alive. Okay, so that's a long time. That's more than 28 years, more than 30 years. I understood about breast cancer, something I learned in nursing school. And what's even more important is I spent a significant amount of time after completing my doctorate degree doing community health with women of color, particularly Black women, saying, hey, this is what breast cancer is. Black women, get your mammogram. Black women, go do all these things because breast cancer is killing us. I taught women how to find those lumps in their breasts. I taught them. I took time to say, a breast cancer lump feels this way as opposed to those other lumps that you have in your breast. So when I'm in the shower and I feel it, it's like, oh, bleep, because I already knew. I mean, I skipped some steps. I called my doctor and I'm like, dude, I got breast cancer. Let's skip that screening mammogram and let's go get the real thing, because I already know what time it is. But it was a challenge. But I got to say to you, in that shower, even though I knew I wasn't Nurse Deborah. I was just myself. And myself was scared. Myself said, no, ain't nothing wrong with you. Keep it moving. But that other part of me, that part of me that you talk about that says, no, you got to handle your business, that part of me was like, don't play yourself like that, girl. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. Now, mind you, all of these things are happening during COVID. During COVID, the time when this country was crazy and everybody was crazy. I was crazy. I didn't even want to go outside because it was so much COVID. Okay, I didn't even want my kids to come around because it was COVID. Okay, so here I am and I'm calling them up and I'm saying, I have a lump in my breast and I know it's breast cancer. And they're like, well, you didn't get the screening mammogram, you didn't get your whatever. And it's a challenge because I understand as a nurse what that is, but it was also a challenge because, honest to God, all the things that I have learned about women when they face breast cancer was hitting me right in my face. Because one of the biggest things you learn is that you're afraid, you're scared. And you know what? Nurse Deborah, the person who never had breast cancer, was like, oh, don't be afraid. Go on and do this, go do that. But the person who had breast cancer was scared, very scared, okay? And I didn't want people taking a long time because I kept thinking, man, you know what? I got to see James get married and have some kids. You know, you need to hurry up in case you watch this, James, okay? But I need to see a lot of things. So that was a time when I was so afraid. And I had to reach in many, many different places to get past it. I had to pray. I had to reach down and say, how many tough things in my life have I faced before? What did I do to get past those tough things? My child was diagnosed with cancer when he was 12. That was a tough thing right there, okay? Because I was like, I'm going to beat somebody down about that little boy, okay?
I remember that time.
Okay, but that kid is nice and alive and about to turn 40. But you know what? I had to say, get that strength. Get that Debbie. Get that person who's like, come on, chick, you got to pull it together because you in for a tough one. And that's what I had to do. But through all of that, I still had to say, God, please help me because I just don't know how I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to do. When I went in there to get that mammogram and the little girl who gave me the mammogram, she actually had worked with my daughter and she was chit-chatting with me. And then I realized I had her so scared because she clearly was seeing the mass, but she didn't want to say anything. And I finally had to say to her, okay, listen, we're not going to play. I already know what time it is, you do too. So let's do what we got to do. But you need to take so many pictures because this is really not that comfortable. And once I put her at ease, then I found that I was at ease. And I just did what I had to do. And it was scary. It was real, real scary.
Speaking of scary, a few months ago, our sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho Incorporated, we did, you facilitated, coordinated a Stop the Silence event. Do you find that in the African American community that it's taboo to have breast cancer, or is it a myth? What do you think Black women feel about breast cancer?
What I think is in the African American community, there are a lot of things that we have made taboo. I don't know where it came from, but I know it is generational, where we can have illness, no matter what the illness is. We don't want to talk about it as if somebody's going to come along and say, see, you did so and so and so. I think that's part of it. I think sometimes people feel like, oh, if I got this means that I wasn't a good Christian or I wasn't living right and God is punishing me and so on and so forth. I think that's part of it. I think when it comes to issues that deal with women, our health, that we don't really want to talk about certain things because we think somehow it's going to make us less of a woman. And those are all very, very real things. As women, we've been taught for the longest time, you're a real woman when you go have a baby and you go do this and you raise that baby and that baby is a reflection of you and who you are and what you are, you know. So if you're a woman who can't have a baby, then what does that make you? because you're still a woman, but you got something going on. And then you try not to talk about it. Then you go do other things. You go get Miss Susie. Miss Susie's granddaughter had a baby. She was 16. I'm going to raise it like it was mine. You try to go and do all those things. Or I have breast cancer, and somehow that makes me less than a woman. Because when you're sitting in that seat and they're telling you that you have breast cancer, you're making some decisions and you're making them fast. Nobody has time to play with you. Part of you want to go real fast because you're thinking, I don't want this to kill me. But the other part of you is saying, you know what, I got to decide. And all the things that you think about yourself, they come screaming back. And all those things about why I don't want to tell anybody. When I sat there and he was like, okay, you got breast cancer and one breast's going to be gone. Okay, ain't no saving it, ain't no going around the bush, and one of them babies going to be out of here. So then, I had to really say to myself, do breasts make me a woman? I know that my whole life I had these girls hanging off my chest and they were a part of me and everything I did. But does that make me a woman? Does that make me something that I'm embarrassed to say to people that I no longer have any breasts? And I think that's part of what makes Black women feel like I don't want to talk about it. Now don't get me wrong, because not having no boobs be making your life a little bit challenging now. I ain't gonna lie about that. Don't get to wear the same clothes, a whole bunch of other things happen. But down inside, who am I? And I think that's part of it. And I hope that any Black woman who's listening to this come to realize that when something is wrong with you, you better look inside and see who you are. Because that's who makes you who you are. That's what makes you what you are. Not our hair, not our breasts, not our butt, none of that other stuff. None of it. You got to be who you are.
I love it. And actually, all of those things, if we could be real, we could buy hair.
Yeah, that's what my mama used to say. Black women don't care about no hair because they can go get some at any beauty supply store.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about breast cancer, cancer in general. I mean, when Chadwick Boseman died of colon cancer, I think that brought a little bit more heightened awareness about cancer. I still think that most people think it's not going to happen to them until it does. So let's talk about mental health and breast cancer. Now, I will tell you that when you first told me, on one hand, I said, Nurse Debra, she is strong. She's going to be able to get through this. And on the other hand, I was like, I finally personally know someone that has breast cancer. I read about patients with breast cancer in medical records during my 30-year history in healthcare, but it's one thing to read about someone's breast cancer diagnoses, that they got chemotherapy, they're on tamoxifen. It's one thing to read about it, but it's another thing to actually watch someone else go through it. So talk a little bit about the mental health and breast cancer.
So this is what I'm going to say. The nurse part of me read books too. This is what happens when you have breast cancer. They tell you all the things you're supposed to do. The person who had breast cancer found that all those things I read in the book, while a good starting point, just really didn't happen. Because nobody talks to you about the mental health that comes along with breast cancer. I have a friend, Dr. Adam Murphy. He does prostate cancer, so totally different organ. But one of the things that he said is that he has learned that there's a mental health component to having cancer and that medicine is just not prepared to deal with it. So from the mental health perspective, every day for a whole year, I was like, oh God, please. When I woke up in the morning, I just said, God, thank you for this day. Because all the other stuff that came along with cancer was so scary. I didn't know, am I going to live? Am I not going to live? How scared am I? How am I looking at myself? You start thinking back over your life. How much dirt have I done to people? God, look, I'm being real because I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect, and I'm sure I've done things to people that make them say, I can't stand that heifer. And I wish whatever would happen. But you know what? I'm like, do I go find them and say I'm sorry because I'm trying to buy my way into heaven or what? Because you realize that all the things that are fearful, they come screaming home. But there's nothing in any books that talk about the mental health aspect of having cancer, breast cancer, colorectal cancer, any kind of cancer. I did have a little bit of insight because my mom died of cancer. And my mom talked to me about how she was scared and the least little thing sent her over the edge. And what I realized is that as a woman with breast cancer, and probably as anybody with cancer, you got to figure out how to cope with it. You got to figure out how to deal with it. Whatever it takes to make you deal with it. Now, I don't suggest you go be drinking and become an alcoholic or maybe a drug addict. I don't suggest that, but I'm just saying you got to figure out what you have to do. I have a friend who has cancer, and the way she deals with it is not the way that I dealt with it. I needed control because everything around me was just out of control. It's like, I ain't supposed to have no breast cancer. And so it was out of control. So part of my mental health was, I went to the doctors and I'm like, look, we need to talk about everything that's going to happen to me. You need to allow me to have some control. And I love my oncologist, I do. But we had to have a for real come to Jesus meeting. Because I told her, you could be the best oncologist in the world. But if the patient doesn't agree with what you're going to do, then all your treatment is worth nothing. Because you need the patient to be on board. So since this is my life, my breasts, my everything else, can we at least talk about it? Can we plan? But she told me, okay, that helped me through a certain part of it. But there were other parts, other mental health parts, that no one helped me with. No one helped me with looking in the mirror and saying, this is how I look now. Where did this come from? How do I really feel? Am I myself? Am I the person who I thought I was? We all think things. When I used to teach people about breast cancer, I would say, everybody looks at their breasts and they say, my breasts make me look hot, my breasts make me look whatever, they feed my kids, my blah, blah, blah. Whatever you think the girls do for you, and they do different things at different times. They please my husband or whatever. But all of a sudden, you don't have that anymore. And what do you think about yourself? And then that goes back to, does that mean I'm less than a woman? And I had already told myself, oh, no, I'm okay. So all of these things, and it's a sense of loss. I grieve that I don't look the way I look. I really do. Kind of pissed off that I have a whole bunch of clothes that don't fit no more too on the board side. You know what I mean? But it's sad. And I just have to learn to deal with that sadness. I think about my mom when she said, things are going to come to make you scared. So that's one thing that helps me. I say, God, please help me. And the rest of it, I'm like, well, I didn't want to fight breast cancer just to be crazy as hell. So let me just try to think of some things out. Okay.
Well, you probably was already a little crazy to begin with. So you talked about your mom. I know that you also lost your father. And I think a lot of times we as Black people, we don't deal with our stuff. We don't agree with going to therapy. We say we're going to go to church and pray and Jesus is going to work it out. But what are your thoughts on how to cope with not only just breast cancer, but any illness? What would you say to someone that says, I don't want to go to therapy, I don't have a pastor, but maybe they have community? How important is community during any obstacle that you're facing?
Community is important irrespective of what it is. If it's good things, if it's bad things, community is important. Because here's the deal. If you accomplish something and you're happy and you want to share it, well, you want to share it with somebody besides the person in the mirror. That's when that community comes in. But the thing is, then you have to look at yourself and say, I'm not sharing this because I want to be braggadocious. I'm sharing this because hopefully I can help someone else. So that's part of that community. Community is important when something bad happens, because sometimes when something bad happens, I find that we as Black people tend to come gather. Some of us gather because we just nosy, okay? Some of us gather because we want to talk about you, or we want to whatever. But some of us gather because we really want to be that shoulder. I would not have made it, or I don't think I would have made it as well if I didn't have you, if I didn't have my community, if I didn't have people. Everybody does something to help. And we have to learn to understand that whatever someone contributes, we need to see the beauty in that. There were some people who just called me and said, hey, I have a person I grew up with from like six years old. She had breast cancer. When she had breast cancer, I was right there. I called her. I did this. I did that. Blah, 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 blah. And when she found out I had breast cancer, she called me up and she said, I'm sorry you got breast cancer, but I can't talk about it because it's just like it's traumatic. Okay. But I knew her calling me saying, I can't talk about it because it's traumatic, made me feel like, man, she loves me. She cares about me. Okay. But she's not going to call me up and say, how you doing today? Okay, she ain't gonna do none of them things right there. Doesn't mean that her input is any less. So community does many different things. I think about you. I think about my sorors. I think about my kids. Everybody contributed. And believe me again, this all happened when COVID was at its height. Okay, I had a mastectomy because they called me up and said, we about to close the hospitals down one more time. So your cancer is aggressive. We know that. So we need you to come get your mastectomy tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow, my birthday? No. They're like, okay, well, you want to have some more birthdays? You might need to choose. So I went on my birthday. They were singing happy birthday as they was putting me to sleep. And I was thinking, Jesus, just let me wake up, okay? So I can have another birthday or see the day after this one. But that's the whole point. People come and people gathered around me. People sent food. People sent gift cards. People made phone calls. People asked me to talk about it. People they prayed. Some people didn't even call me. They prayed. But some people know that for me, I think that you do have to pray. And sometimes you don't have a church. Sometimes you don't have a pastor. Sometimes the pastor ain't the person to go to. Because you know what? My pastor was not a female. My pastor don't know what it's like to lose any breast. He got some breasts, but you know what? He ain't going to get them cut off, right? So talking to him, no. I talked to my pastor's wife. You want to know what she said? Oh, girl, I don't want to think about that. That could happen to me. So, no. Who you going to talk to, right? So I think that you need everybody. You need that church. You need to sit down and say, where's my faith? What do I believe in? You need to do that. And you need the people around you. Sometimes I just needed a laugh because I was sick of hearing about some breast cancer.
I got it. So listen, you just recently retired, and I'm jealous because I want to retire one day. So what are your plans post-retirement to have a greater impact on the world? You probably don't know this, but you have so many gifts and talents to share with the world globally. I know in your former position, you got to travel for your previous employer, but now you get to get out, move about the country on your own terms and have a greater impact. So what are your plans post-retirement?
So here's the deal. First, I got to say this about retirement. Everybody looks for, I want to retire. I can't wait. Here's what I'm going to say to anybody who's I can't wait. You know what? Just have a plan for retirement, because I retired March 31st. So I've been retired, 30 days, 31 something. I wanted to do everything. And then I realized you can't do everything. Then I realized, I didn't really plan this retirement thing out too tough. So now I thought to myself, I want to teach nursing. I want to teach nursing for a reason, because there are many, many people who look like you and look like me, and they don't make it through nursing school. Not because they don't have the aptitude or the desire. It's because there are systems set in place to make sure they don't make it through nursing school. So I want to be that person that tells them, despite all the obstacles, you can make it through nursing school. Because I don't consider myself no genius. I might be a little type A and want all A's, but I'm no genius now. So, but I want to be that encouragement. I want to talk to people about what I went through. I didn't think I really wanted to talk about breast cancer until you made me think about the gap in the world is that we tell women 1 in 8 women will have breast cancer, but nobody tells you what to do when you're that 1 in 8. Okay, nobody talks to you about that mental health. Nobody tells you that you need to do a lot of things. There are lots going to happen to you when you have breast cancer besides losing your breast. Nobody tells you that. So I want those contributions. Now I feel like whatever I do with my life, and I went and got another job. I don't know if that was a good idea, but I did it. Anyway, now I feel like I want to have some control over my life. So yes, I did go get another job, but here's the difference. The difference is if I really get tired of them, I can say, bye, Felicia. I'm retired. I don't have to do it. Unlike, in January, I had to do it, but not in May. So I want to make sure that I carve out time to do the things that are important to me, because I realize that more of my life is behind me than what's in front of me. So when I'm gone, you know what? I just want to say that I do something that I'm proud of. Something that I'm proud of besides raising my children. I am proud of my children. I'm proud of who they are. Even though they may get on my nerves a little bit, I'm still very, very proud of them, who they are and their accomplishments. But I want to do something else. I want to say that, you know what, if I'm going, Lisa, are you going to remember that I was a pain in your butt? Or are you going to remember that I was the chick who said, oh no, I'm not going to let nobody do me like that. I want to do that. Am I going to say that I inspired someone? And I'm not that I want them to say, oh, Debbie did this or Debbie did this. I just want them to say that I was able to reach into a place, get an example to say, I can still make it and I can still go forward. Because we don't get to live forever. But I hope you leave something that's an example so someone can say, I don't even remember that girl's name, but I know she did this. I can do it too. Because there's nothing special about it. I'm no genius, I'm no queen, I'm no none of those things. I'm just a normal everyday person. And if I'm a normal everyday person and I can face obstacles and adversity, then so can everybody else.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, Dr. Debra Boyd-Seale, there's probably more to that story about that doctor part, since I encouraged you to go to Capella.
Lisa made me go get a Ph.D. Yes, she did.
Community, right?
Community.
It's about us helping each other grow.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on the Growth Motivator Live. I know that this is not the last that we're going to hear from you. I want to see you on the stage telling millions of women, I made it, so can you. I think a lot of women and men are afraid to be vulnerable and admit that they are afraid. But once they take that first step, they can make it. But seeing you on the stage telling them, yeah, boo, you can make it, is going to be so, so impactful. So thank you so much. I love you.
Well, I love you too. You are a very, very, very big inspiration. I'm so proud of you. I have watched you grow and grow and grow and grow to be this beautiful, confident woman that I see in front of me. This woman that wants to give back. So thank you for allowing me to come here and say, you can make it, because you can make it. I don't care what happens. You can make it. So thank you, and thank you for being that example. Because you are that example. And thank you for making me go to Capella too. Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Growth Motivator Live. See you next time.